Welcome to the shop. You saw the thumbnail. Gyros kill. Let's be honest, it's a pilot error. Too many pilots, experienced pilots. In this particular case where you see that Avios extra, experienced pilot didn't understand that the gyro has a memory. And what I mean by that is the Spektrum system, AS3X, and SAFE, the receiver itself has memory. And if I set up AS3X and I then sell it or give it to you, it remembers that. Even though you rebind to a different plane, you set it up differently, the control surfaces are different, inside this little guy, that gyro is still active. And in this particular case, my friend took his brand new plane and I said, hey, is the gyro set up? And he goes, I didn't even turn it on. He took off and smashed it into the ground instantly. Because, and we went up and did the testing on it, and we could see that the gyro was turned on. This is not the first gyro kill video I've made. This is the third, in fact. Made a couple of these, and each one I go into a lot of detail about how to prevent this from happening. I also made a video on just, if you're using a gyro, here's several tips that you probably should pay attention to, and a whole video on how to create a model the right way. Check it out. So in this video, I'm going to go over a couple things. One, I'm going to go over, the different types of receivers. Does this receiver have a gyro in it? Well, the Spektrums are pretty easy to tell. It says right on the front. And there are some that have a gyro and some that don't. You need to understand the difference there. The next thing I'm going to talk about is when you plug in your plane, the plane will tell you when it boots up if there's a gyro on it or not. And is it just AS3X or is it safe? Because there's a big difference there. The other thing I'm going to talk about is when you get that receiver, and let's say it's not a new receiver, you just got this at a swap meet or a buddy gave it to you or you took it out of another plane. What do you need to do to this receiver to make sure it isn't a total disaster when you go and mate in this plane? Then I'm going to go into, you've replaced a servo because one went out. And you notice when you did your control check, it was reversed. So you went into controls and you reversed it. There's something else you better do or else that plane is going to pile into the ground because you got to teach your gyro the direction. And lastly, I'm going to show how you test the gyro to make sure it's working properly. Stick around, we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff. A couple things about receivers. You go to a swap meet and you pick this guy up here. And it's been used in another plane. You could tell it's been used. But if you look right there, that right there says safe. And there's a little symbol on it. Other things are about telemetry and some other stuff. But that right there says that this has a gyro in it. Whether the gyro is active or not, don't know. Need to look into that. This receiver, it doesn't have that symbol for safe. This does not have a gyro. You could put this in a plane, set up your plane like you normally do, and no gyro is in it. This is one of the newer ones. Has a plus at the end, which means it has AS3X Plus already installed. And it has that little symbol right there. So this one absolutely has gyro. And depending on what it came out of, it has that white silicone, which usually means it came out of a bind and fly, which is a whole nother issue we can talk about later. Anyway, just trying to give you a heads up just so you can educate yourself on different receivers and what some of those symbols might mean to you when you're putting this in one of your planes. When you power up your plane and it goes through the process of initializing and then the control surfaces move twice, then safe is actually activated. If you power it up and the control surfaces move once, AS3X only is activated. First thing you're going to do with your allegedly new receiver you put in your plane, you're going to bind it. When you go through the binding process, it's doing, and I think everybody knows this, it communicates a transmitter to the receiver and makes a connection. So now you have that bound. However, if this isn't a brand new out-of-the-box receiver, I highly recommend you go and check to see if AS3X has been set up. What we're going to do is go into forward programming, go to gyro. If you see first time setup, this has not been set up in AS3X. It is not, AS3X is not turned on, meaning the gyro is not turned on. You will not be affected. You're going to fly this as just a regular receiver. However, if you go into forward programming, hit gyro settings, and it's going to pop up, and it doesn't say first time setup. It says first time setup for safe, but not first time setup. That means this has already been set up. I want you to go into factory reset, click on factory reset. It's going to rebind, and what it just did was it removed all of the gains, it removed orientation, it removes all of that. And now when you go back into gyro, just to make sure, it's going to pop up as first time setup. So basically from that standpoint, if you see first time setup, there's no gyro. One of your servos in your plane, just craps out. So you installed a new servo in your plane, and you notice it was reverse when you did the control check. So you go into servo, you go into reversing, and you reverse that servo. If you don't relearn the servos in forward programming, you're going to be in big trouble. Go into forward programming, go into gyro settings, and then under system setup, you will see relearn servo. What that's going to do is it's going to tell the system that now that servo is different. Go ahead, all, apply, complete, and now the gyro understands the correct direction it needs to go. We're going to go into forward programming to run this test. I'm going to go into gyro settings, system setup, utilities, and gyro response test. This is going to make your control surfaces exaggerated. You're going to move them so you can see, basically you're testing how the gyro is going to work to make sure everything is orientated properly and the control surfaces are working correctly. Let me show you what that looks like. So the way this control surface works, is when I lift my wing up, and it's the same thing if this wasn't safe, it's just exaggerating the control surfaces to max. This control surface is up as I move this up, and it's simulating self level, let's say, which means it's trying to push that wing down. So if that's up, then that's correct. It's supposed to do that. We want that aileron. If I lift that wing tip up while it's facing me, it should go, the wing tip that's up, the aileron should go up. The elevator, if I lift the tail up, that elevator should be up, and it is. If I move this to the, whatever direction I move this over to the right, that rudder should be kicking over in that direction, and same thing over here. That's how this works, okay? So they're a little exaggerated in this mode, but it tells you basically, is the orientation correct? Are the control surfaces working properly? Again, this is exaggerated and it works in all modes. It just kicks on that gyro and just maximizes everything so you can see what's going on. Super helpful. So when you're done, all you do is just back right out. And that's it. I have a whole playlist on my channel of all of this stuff. There will be a link in the description below that'll take you right to the playlist. Thanks a lot.